G'day from Barcelona, the day after the Spanish Grand Prix, and do I have some stories for you. Max Verstappen was delighted with his win, Lando Norris not so happy with second, and Lewis thrilled to be back on the podium. Now I'll deal with the race in just a moment, but first I want to run through some stories that you'll have no idea about. Hello. She's going to get bread. I mentioned in another video earlier this week that Lance Stroll arrived late via helicopter. Well, I can tell you that he was late because he had a doctor's appointment. Now, you might have read that he was fined, or the team was fined, because he didn't attend a fan event. He was ill, he did go to a doctor, but rules state that if that's the case and you're going to miss an event because of something like this, you have to advise the medical delegate. They didn't do that. He was called to the stewards, and the team was given a reprimand because it was the team that was at fault. Now, an update on the McLaren fire-damaged hospitality suite. On Sunday race day, the hospitality suite was cordoned off. There were people working madly inside trying to clean the place, and I can tell you, there was a real stink of smoke inside there. Now, you might have seen my video on Saturday about the fire. I mentioned that the firefighters were having a lot of trouble getting the water through the hose. People were saying you don't use water on an electrical fire, and that's what it was. They weren't trying to extinguish the electrical fire, they were using the water to wet down the roof because they didn't want the roof to go up. The team only has that one hospitality suite, and they won't be using that in Austria. What will they be using? They're madly trying to find a solution now. It could well be just a large marquee or a tent, but their focus is on having that hospitality suite back up and running for Silverstone, which is a huge event. And of course, we now have 2 more race weekends in a row. So they will be working their backsides off back in the UK to get that fixed. McLaren spent the rest of the weekend cooking their meals in the Mercedes kitchen, which was a nice gesture from Mercedes. And you might have heard that I mentioned in my other video that Red Bull would be hosting some of their guests, which I understand did happen. And there were still firefighters around the paddock on Sunday, mopping up that mess. And so I'm going to do a Firefighters of the Paddock post sometime this week, because you probably realise I do Men of the Paddock, Women of the Paddock, Shoes of the Paddock. And on the subject of shoes, look at these, hand-painted, and aren't they amazing? And this is the young woman who wore these shoes at the previous race. I'm not sure who's painting these images, but they're immensely talented, I'd suggest. And still on the subject of shoes, have a look at Lewis's. These are a Timberland collaboration with his name and his number on them. Now this will amaze a lot of you. Are you aware of the Hok Tui girl? It's an internet sensation. TikTok opened my eyes to this. And if you haven't seen it, I'll just suggest you go and find it. And I'll give you the spelling in a second, because it's a bit edgy. So imagine my surprise when I'm out in the driver's car park and there's a team car. Will I say the team? No, I won't say the team because it might embarrass them. In fact, it will embarrass them. But I come across this one team car and I walk around the back and I see this on the back of the car. This is a vinyl sticker. This car is being driven by people from one of the 10 F1 teams. Now, I honestly don't believe that the person who's driven this car has put that sign on the back. I'm thinking maybe someone's actually ambushed them and they don't know, but once you get the significance of what that's about and the fact that it's on one of the team cars, you, I think, will be as shocked as I was. Now, let's talk about Netflix. They had an extra crew at the track this weekend, and a couple of guys that I hadn't seen for some time were back in the paddock, and I said, "Why are you here?" He said, "Oh, we've got an extra crew." "Why?" "We came here for the big announcement." Oh, what they're referring to is something that I alluded to, I think it was on Friday, that Williams would be making a big announcement that Carlos Sainz would be joining the team. Now, a lot of people in the paddock were of exactly the same opinion, and we're all waiting for it. I even went and shot my mouth off on a post saying, yes, expect some big news today. So the fact that Netflix arrived thinking it was going to be a huge story suggests to me that it was very close to being announced, and why it hasn't been announced, nobody quite knows. So we're all left with a bit of egg on our face, and Netflix have had an extra crew there for pretty much no reason. Jumping now to drivers along with their families and girlfriends, let's run through the list. George Russell's girlfriend, Carmen, was there along with George's parents. Carlos Sainz had his mother, his father, his girlfriend and his sister Anna with him. And I must admit, on this particular post on Sunday, some rather harsh comments about Rebecca that I had to delete from some angry, perhaps, and nasty fans. She's not the only one to get some negative comments. Occasionally I have to delete stuff about Alexandra as well. She was at the track this weekend with Charles. Fernando Alonso had his mother there, along with his girlfriend Melissa Jimenez, who is naturally going to be at most races because she is a journalist. Interestingly, when Fernando arrives, normally there's 4 of them in the car, his trainer, his manager, him and Melissa. But Melissa always hangs back and comes in separately. I can't tell you why, and I don't know whose idea it is or whether she's just got extra work to do and chooses to do it in the car. But she is a very popular personality on Spanish TV. She works for the DAZN network. Oh, let's talk about Esteban Ocon's girlfriend, Flavie Bala. She's very popular. She went from, and by the way, before she started going out with Esteban, had no idea about Formula One. I spoke with her yesterday for a bit and we discussed the fact that she's pretty new to the sport, loves it. Prior to meeting Esteban, she said 16,000 odd followers on Instagram, and today it's 10 times that, she says. And that's what often happens with the partners of F1 drivers. They become mini celebrities, and very quickly. Oh, and Esteban's parents were there, and I'd like to show you a photo. In fact, I invested about 20 minutes chasing a photo of his parents, but unfortunately I dipped out. The best I got was a shot of Dad on his own at a table in the hospitality suite. Pierre Gasly had his parents there, Jean-Jacques and Pascal, along with his girlfriend Kika. I'll go to a funny story about that in a second. But if you're wondering where his parents watched the race from, there's a deck at the back of the engineering motorhome where there's a big television, and that's where I caught Pascal, Jean-Jacques, and Pierre's manager Guillaume out the back watching on the television. Now, my story about Kika and Pierre from both Saturday and Sunday, and I'll go to Saturday. I saw the pair walking in. Pierre had security guards either side of him, and they walked within a shoulder's length of Pierre. And so at some stage, I just gestured to him, any chance of getting Kika to come join you so I get a shot of the pair? And he's looked back and sort of gestured, come on up. Then he's looked at the security guard, and she hasn't moved, and Kika's starting to move up. And he's looked at the security guard again, then just given a little, move over. And that happened again on the Sunday, where these security guards walk so close to the drivers that their partners can't come next to them. But we sorted that out for Sunday as well. Daniel Ricciardo's girlfriend Heidi wasn't at the track. At least if she was, I didn't see her, but his parents were there, Joe and Grace, and they will be coming to another race before they head back to Australia, where they live in Perth, not far from me. Valtteri and Tiffany were together for Sunday. Caught them coming in, and at the back of the FIA garage, I gather Tiffany had to make a rushed exit to catch her flight, because she's actually caught Valtteri, given him a kiss, said goodbye, and then she's rushed off, because the traffic out of that track at the time that they wanted to leave was horrendous. So maybe she got a helicopter transfer, because I reckon it would have taken at least 90 minutes to get to the airport from where we were at the track. Oh, and finally Mick Schumacher was along with his girlfriend Leila Hasanovic. They're very open now, more than happy to come in holding hands, which is great. His last relationship was much more private, but it's very hard to be private in the F1 paddock when you've got 20 or 30 photographers and TV cameramen waiting to snap you as you arrive at the track. Now, I mentioned over the weekend that Flavio Briatore was back with Alpine. Very controversial appointment. I was speaking to one of their PR guys and I said, how's it going with Flavio? And he said, well, it's obviously worked pretty well. Look at our performance on race day and in quali. And their F1 Academy team had a win as well. So he was putting all that down to Flavio being back on board. Here's something you won't see on Sky TV or DAZN. It's the procedure when a driver goes to the toilet prior to a session. And this one was prior to qualifying. See, there are no toilets in the motorhome where the drivers get dressed. So they come down these stairs, they exit, go through a handful of, well, not a handful, it was a throng of people waiting for selfies and autographs, and then they rush into this toilet where their security guard stands guard at the front, and you can't go in. Charles, in this case, was left to have a wee in private, and when he comes out, obviously, he's shadowed back into the garage. Have I seen that before? No, I don't think I have. Certainly with the guys from the lower teams from the far end of the paddock, where they've got very few people out the back of the garage, it's never an issue. But up the popular end, this may well be a thing of the future. Of course, if there's toilets inside the hospitality suite or the engineering motorhome, that's not an issue. Let's jump now to Lando Norris. He didn't have any family with him this race, but I did catch him coming in on Saturday. And as he walked in, I was standing next to his photographer, and he just did this. A funny grin with his eyes shut tight. I love that sort of stuff from Lando, and certainly you do too when I post those pictures on social media. Zach's tattoo. This is it now, having healed from, when was it done? 10 days ago? Yeah, it looks pretty good. And this was his other tattoo. And I did think, in fact, I put some money on it, that he would have a third tattoo after Lando's win yesterday, which didn't eventuate, and I'll go through that in just a second. Jack Doohan to Alpine. Yeah, lots of talk, and we think it's going to happen. We think he's definitely the front runner. Perhaps we're just in contractual stages now, waiting for paperwork to be signed. But it would be great to have a third Australian on the grid. Let's go to the race itself. Prior to it, I was in pit lane shooting cars doing their formation laps. Then I headed to the back of the grid to get the cars coming towards me. Celebrity-wise, we had a French actress and a footballer, but really we were devoid of any real celebrity news on the grid. So after the national anthem, I headed down to turn 1, where I shot ground level just before they break. Well, it is phenomenal down there because you get 20 cars roaring towards you, and there's no wire, it's clean above waist height, and at some point you think, right, they're getting a bit too close, and you stop shooting, much like the situation in Monaco. But 3 wide, that doesn't happen very often, and like everybody, I was surprised to see George just appear out of nowhere. I hung around there for about 15 laps, and I couldn't believe the number of overtakes I was seeing going into turn 1, and primarily that's due to the fact that we don't have that chicane the second last corner, third last corner now. So hence they're coming onto that straight with far more speed, and they're able to pass as they get to turn 1. And about 2/3 of the way through the race, I headed back to the media centre, went down for Parc Ferme, where Max arrived, where he was jubilant. I then focused my attention on Lando, and yeah, not much, if any, excitement for him getting out of the car. And then up on the podium, I thought he was quite subdued. And then when he didn't do the spike of the bottle, I figured, right, he's not happy with his performance. And it turned out to be the case that, yes, he was disappointed because he felt he had the fastest car and just mucked the start up. And that cost him dearly. He could well have had win number 2 in his career, had to settle with a second. And I think it's great for his maturity now and for the sport that he's not satisfied with second. And then to the press conference, which I didn't go to, but I have seen this picture pop up everywhere, with Lewis just lying down waiting for Max and Lando to arrive. And if you didn't see, this was the post that F1 put up on their page, to which Lewis replied, "What is this music? I was listening to Bob Marley." Anyway, it was a great Sant Joan Day here in Barcelona. If you're not sure what that means fireworks at night. And I had no idea that the race coincided with that day. And I've got this beautiful apartment with a lovely balcony. So last night we had hours and hours of amazing fireworks. We did actually have a near incident up here when Jace's girlfriend Danica decided she'd hold one of those fireworks to see how it went, letting it off in her hand, but failed to let it go. Anyway, she's recovered, she's fine.
Let go, let go, let go, let go! That's why we don't do that anymore.
Hands on fire.
Oh yeah, hands on fire. It's okay now.
Oh my god!
Oh, that was funny.
Put it in the chute.
Okay, let's see the video.
With that said, people, I'm going to invite you to go and check out all my other content and merchandise at all of these sites. Thanks for watching, and stay passionate. Have been blocked up. Oh, shut the